Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy and welcome to this tutorial on Clearfix. In this video we're going to be looking at an easy way to clear floats, a better way to clear floats in terms of not adding too much markup to your page, particularly if you have lots of elements that require floating or float clearing. Now, a more traditional method which I have used in some tutorials, just simply because it's easier to use this method in tutorials when teaching. However, when the time comes round to it and we need to be more efficient and we need to go ahead and create a website, we need to know how to do a clear fix. Now, for the purpose of this tutorial, I've created an outer container. I've created two inner containers. I've applied Clearfix to this here, but we haven't created any styles yet. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that for now, and we'll just style these up as we normally would, in terms of floating these elements. Now, hopefully by what I've written in terms of markup, you'll understand what we want to do with this. So bear with me and take a moment to try and understand what we're doing. We've got a class, an outer container called two columns. And that's just because inside I have two columns, but this could be anything. It could be a comment box, it could be anything. Now inside I've got two containers, one called column 1 and one called column 2. Now at the moment in our browser it looks like this. We've just got column 1 here and column 2 here, and if we go ahead and inspect these, you can see like that. Now what we want to do is we want to create a container, so around this big, about here. We want to go ahead and we want to put the two columns in, float this column here to the left, float this column here to the right, and we'll give them both a round of 50% percentage. So I'll style this up how we would normally do so. You might learn something there if you're not too used to floats, but then we'll look at how we can use Clearfix. So let's go ahead and style the two columns. Let's go ahead and correct that. Two columns container. Let's go ahead and give this a width of 400 pixels. I'll make it 300. And let's go ahead and give this a background color as well. Now this is going to enable us to see exactly what we're doing. So you can see now this has been housed in here. In fact, I should make that a bit larger. There we are. So this has been housed inside of here now, all of our content. So we've got our column 1 here and our column 2 down here. So let's go ahead and style them up accordingly. So column -1. I'm going to give this a width of 49%. In actual fact, I'm going to give both columns a width of 49%. And that just allows for some padding, if you like, in between. Okay, but this time column 1 I'm going to float left, and the same for column 2, but I'm going to float this right, so we will get this effect. Now notice when I refresh, this grey area is going to disappear, and I'll take a small moment to tell you why that is. Okay, so we've got the effect that we want. We've got the column here and we've got the column here. However, our background has disappeared. Now it's still there. When I hover over column 1, it's selected in blue in our element inspector. When I hover over column 2, it's highlighted blue as well. When I hover over our two columns div, it's not actually shown. And that's because our floats have ignored, or rather the outer container has ignored any floated elements. And that is basically because floats aren't meant to be used for styling purposes. It's just a really good way of creating areas on your site, or in this case two different columns. So we need a way to clear this. Now let me go ahead and show you the way that I've used number 1 in tutorials, and 2 when I'm quickly trying to either mock something up or show someone how to clear something. I would go ahead and I would create a clear class, and then I would say clear both. Now with a clear property we can clear left or we can clear right. The reason we say clear both is it just means we can apply it to either properties or underneath properties that have been floated left or right. So we only need to go ahead and create one class. Otherwise we would have to do clear right, right, blah blah blah, you get the idea. So we just say our clear class and we clear both. Now what we can do is underneath these two floated elements, one left, one right, we can actually add this class in. So we can create another div and give it the class of clear. And what this does is it says to the outer container before it reaches the end, essentially, that's probably not what actually happens, but it will clear the floats on these and therefore it will render the outer container properly instead of how we've seen it. So you can now see that the outer container is back again. When we go ahead and hover over it, we see the blue area, our floats have been cleared. Now this is fair enough, but we're adding more markup to our page when we really shouldn't be doing so. It's acceptable to do. It's been done in the past, and it's not a horrible way of doing things. It's certainly better than laying a website out in tables, for example. But we don't want to use the clear class on another element. It's semantically meaningless. It doesn't actually mean anything on our page. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use this Clearfix. Okay, so not Clearfox, Clearfix. So the effect is called Clearfix. It's been called Clearfix for a long time, and we're going to make use of the after pseudo element. Now the after pseudo element looks like this. You may see it with double colons or single colons. Really, double colons is the correct syntax, just because this it makes no difference in how it works. But two colons mean a pseudo element. One colon means a pseudo class, like hover that you may have seen when styling anchor tags. So I'm going to use two colons just for the purpose of being correct. So we've got an after Clearfix. Now what this does is, okay, we'll briefly explain what after does, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply Clearfix to here. So I'm applying two classes now, two columns which we've already styled. We know what it does, and then Clearfix, which is another class. So I've given it a space in between here. We're just basically applying two classes to one element. Now what after will do, and there is a tutorial in this series on it, on the before and after pseudo elements, so go ahead and watch that now if you're unfamiliar and leave this tutorial running. However, after doesn't actually place something, say, after here. You would think that if we've applied it to this overall element, it would add it after here. In actual fact, it adds something here. So you can already start to get where I'm going with this. It means that we can actually clear something, or we can add something in here that clears things without having to go div, class, blah, blah, blah. So we use the pseudo element after, and we apply some basic properties to it. Now the content property is required, and if you have decided to go and watch the tutorial I've made on the before and after pseudo elements, you'll know that the content just basically displays something. We can use an image here if we like, but I'm just going to pop a smiley face in there. Okay, we're going to hide this a bit later, so it doesn't matter what we enter in here. You can enter I'm clear, or anything you want. Make it quirky, that I've always put a little smiley face in. So that would tend to look like this. We've got the little smiley face in here, which is silly. We don't actually need it in there, but we're going to change the visibility of this in a moment. Okay, so now what we can do is start to add properties to this. Now it's an element, or a pseudo element, which isn't actually an element, but it does affect our styles, which is all we really need to do. We can go ahead and we can say clear both. Okay, so perfect. Now this isn't going to work at the moment. When I refresh, you see nothing's happening, and we might think, well, what's going on? I've added this element in here, and I've cleared both. It should be working. Well, the problem with this is that we need to display as a block. The reason we need to display as a block would be for the same reason that we couldn't say span class equals clear as we did before with the div. It won't allow it to be cleared properly, or it won't clear it properly. We would have to style the clear class with the display of block to make that work, essentially. If you understand the difference between divs, spans, strong, EMs, or M, then you'll understand why that happens. So now that we've displayed block, this clear will be taken into account because we're dealing with a block element. And when we refresh, we get this same effect. Unfortunately, we've still got the smiley face here, which we do need to get rid of. So we can go ahead and do that using visibility. Visibility is slightly different to display none. So you might have seen display none. Now the difference between display and visibility is somewhat unclear, but I'll explain quickly. Display will get rid of the element altogether. Visibility will keep the element there but just not show it. So they work in the same way, but they don't remove any of the functionality based around the element. So you can see visibility. Oh, sorry, visibility hidden. I'm getting myself confused with display. So when I refresh now, you see that the smiley face has gone. The other problem that we've got here now is that we have this extra space. So we can go ahead and we can apply a height to this, and we can do a height of 0 will do. So now we've got this. It will, get rid of any extra space that the smiley face had created. So we've now achieved exactly what we did before, but we haven't placed any additional markup in here, and it looks neater, and it's really better for our page. However, obviously there's still nothing wrong with applying the div after here. It just means that you've got a lot of extra markup and it does look messy. And let's just say that this markup was repeated, say 50 times down a page for comments, for example. If you had a comment area and you need to do some clearing in there, you're going to have a lot of, that's 50 additional divs that you don't really need on your page. So you can keep Clearfix in your global CSS file that you use for all your projects. Keep a note of it. It's an extremely useful way to go ahead and clear things. Now there is a problem with Clearfix in terms of using this in IE 6 and 7. I don't know anyone, and I personally wouldn't ever support IE 6 anymore, but IE 7 and I believe IE 8 don't support the pseudo after or pseudo element after. You'll have to double check about IE 8. However, I'm not going to go over it in this tutorial. There's a very simple fix for this that I'm purposely going to leave out for you to go ahead and research. I've explained the bulk of how it works in terms of creating our Clearfix class. But if you want to go ahead and support IE 7, then go ahead and research how to do this method with IE 7 and 8. Actually no, not IE 8. IE 8 does support the pseudo after and before classes, so it's just IE 7 and 6 if you are doing that you need to worry about. Anyway, that's the Clearfix class and how to create it, what it does, and how we can reduce our markup in CSS.